What is going on, everybody? There are a lot of people, believe it or not, who have told me on and off throughout the years that you guys are using a Total Gym or Sony Men's Trainer in a high intensity fashion. And by high intensity, I'm talking about a style of training whereby you're pushing yourself to your absolute failure in all exercises. And since it's absolute failure, you're doing minimal sets. I'm talking one, possibly two, if you're counting some sort of pre-exhausting sets. And this means you're theoretically needing a longer recovery time, so there's less sessions per week. And while I haven't explicitly covered this direct topic in a past video, I have discussed in many past programming options that you guys can take advantage of a Total Gym really 1 to 3 times a week if you're gonna work your whole entire body, and again, if you're working to failure. So I've kind of alluded this in the back end, but I never made a direct video talking about this. So in this video, I'm gonna break down a brief template, which I try and do for free in all of the various programs that I sell on my website. There's some I give away for free, but even the ones I do sell, they're very low cost, literally less than $5 or $6. Same thing with this one. If you wanna get the PDF copy with more details, more FAQ, exercises in more kind of a straightforward printable fashion, that'll be on the website, SonyMen'sTrainer.com, or I'll link it down below. But I give you guys the overall rundown here for free, so we're gonna cover everything. Just check the timestamps down below. Before we get into specifics, it is worth noting some of the basic limitations to a Total Gym or Sony Men's Trainer using high intensity training. Of course, any tool or mode is gonna have their limitations, but with something like this, the first and foremost basic thing or obvious thing might be the fact that just increasing levels of intensity to get you to failure with relative low number of repetitions and not some crazy high number, which you could do, but we're gonna stick to more of a low repetition range here, you'll see in a second. But some of the exercises, aside from just being cumbersome, might be relatively unsafe if you're pushing yourself to failure in a certain particular position. So you kind of have to choose your exercises wisely. And as I said before, there is kind of an ability slash kind of skill component to these machines. The more you use them, the more you get comfortable to them, the more it opens up more exercises. But don't feel like you're limited to just this thing. Of course, if you got other tools at your disposal, just sub in something else, then mix and match the same movement pattern or exercise. I'll just talk about the exercise variables first before we get into the specific exercise you guys are gonna use, but the rep range should more or less be in that 10 to 20 repetition range to the point of failure. Now, if you go beyond that, don't freak out. I'll just keep the set going. Again, bring yourself to failure the next time, just adjust it. It's probably not a gigantic deal. I know some people do go beyond 20 repetitions, but for the sake of this one, kind of staying in the true nature of high intensity training, I wanna keep it relatively low. Also got to consider, again, the Sony Men's Trainer as a machine typically, I think, lends itself to higher repetitions to get more of a stimulus for some people. Of course, you can go slow, but I'm going to stick to, again, 10 to 20 repetitions to failure, put whatever load or intensity that gets you to that point. The tempo we're going to use is kind of a slow to super slow cadence. It's up to you as far as putting a set number on that. Something like you could say 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. Could be even slower than that, but the point is try and go as slow as you can, but still feeling the direct muscle and tension and stimulus on the moving muscle you're trying to stress in that workout. I only emphasize that because sometimes if you're in an awkward position, I definitely don't want you feeling, say, auxiliary muscles turning on and supporting primary muscles that should be working. So you're doing like a chest press, if you feel like you're in a position where it's more your shoulders, your deltoids working, try to adjust the exercises or the positioning if possible so that most of that tension and stress is being directly placed on that direct muscle. But basically keep the tempo slow. This will help you guys get to failure in that low repetition range. And then of course, if the exercise or slow tempo doesn't bring you to failure, you guys can certainly add some external resistance. I'll pin an old video here on the screen, also down in the description box, to outline some of the key ways I found that works for me, again, at your own risk, that I found works with adding resistance on the Sony Men's Trainer, as far as band tension sites, also weight vests, external weight plates, of course, if your Total Gym or a Sony Men's Trainer allows that. I'm primarily gonna focus on variable resistance. I think it's ideal for a number of reasons. You can of course use variable resistance and weight plates. You guys will see that a little bit in the video. In that video, you'll see some of the main ways I like to attach resistance bands. There's all sorts of ways you could potentially do it. I'm gonna keep saying do it at your own risk. These machines are not necessarily made for them. The Great Flex machine does have resistance bands, but these are actually, I think, a little bit better if you can put loose style bands on there. Aside from different ways you can actually attach bands, there's actually different companies and different lengths that can actually make or break how an exercise might feel. So I'm using 41-inch bands most of the time. I do have discount codes for Clench Fitness and Serious Steel. These are some of the best bands that work out. I use them often on my Sony Men's Trainer, so I'll link these down below. I have pairs of bands. I could double up on both sides. 9 times out of 10, it's not necessarily needed, but you can increase the resistance really as heavy as you want if you got a pair of them and double up on both sides. So that actually is something that does work out. I don't think you need super heavy bands for what I'm doing here. I think if you double up a band, you'll be fine. But not only that, even just different dimensions of bands work. So these are all Serious Steel bands, and Serious Steel makes a few different sizes, which is really cool. So they have a 32-inch band. This one looks like their 37-inch band, and they also have their standard 41-inch band. So I think you're seeing in this video me using the smallest one, which is their 32-inch band, and looping it around a certain position. So that already kind of starts the increased resistance right out of the gates when you do any kind of exercise. Again, you got to be careful with this, but I've been using this total body bar that I reviewed recently. It's been working out really well for a number of things. So there's a case to be made for, instead of using kind of the handles for doing various exercises like your presses and rows or pulls, for using kind of more of a bar to really recruit more motor units. There's kind of an argument that you kind of exert more force, direct a fixed bar. Whether you like that or not, or believe it or not, it's kind of up to you. My point is, you guys can get super fancy if you guys want to with various bars on a Total Gym or SaniMen's trainer. I have a whole video on that I can link above as well. I just wasn't using that one in the previous one. So this is some bar that I've been using a lot just because it's easy to kind of slip in and out on my handles. But again, you gotta be super careful because this thing could slip out, but as long as there's tension, I find for me, it works out pretty good. Now, once you get those main exercise variables out of the way, it's just a matter of selecting the exercises that work for you on hitting those primary movement patterns or primary exercises you commonly are gonna be doing in the gym or your home gym. You guys know on this channel, in regards to these machines, you can get super crazy, super creative, super nuanced, and it's totally not necessary. I've always recommended 9 times out of 10, just keep it simple. You do not need a big list of exercises. I've made plenty of videos discussing this, from like top 8 exercises, like top 3 exercises. You don't need a lot. I actually have an exercise library video if you guys want some ideas of some of the key exercises that aren't too crazy, aren't too unique. It's a long video, but I try and be as brief as possible on different exercises and different sections. If you guys want to curious about exercises, I will link them above. But what I'm saying here is just pick some basic foundational exercises for your chest, back, shoulders, arms, and then legs, and that's it. Maybe 1, 2 max. So starting off with chest, you guys are gonna see just my basic seated chest press. Again, you can go handles or with a bar. You gotta be careful with the bar. You guys can see it moving super slow, and even at a moderate incline, I think I might have resistance in this clip you guys are seeing, it gets tough, you know, pretty quickly. So if you're going at that slow click, that slow pace, you're gonna find yourself getting a failure. Now, the option here, you're gonna see me seeing some flies and also presses. Primarily, I want the chest exercise to be a straight press. You'll also see me using the squat stand press. Sometimes it's the Pilates bar attached across, and I got my total body bar draped across it. Again, you gotta be super careful. I'm keeping constant tension. I know some people don't like this. They've kind of wiped out. I'm usually totally fine with it. So choose what exercise works for you. But sometimes with some of these exercises in a traditional high intensity programming, there is such a thing as recommending using pre-exhaustive sets before you get into the main exercise. So you're seeing me use kind of some forced repetitions with flies, and that works out really good on a SaniMen's trainer because you can dissipate that weight. So if you got a bad shoulder and kind of hanging at a low angle and getting to failure might kind of exasperate something which doesn't feel quite right, you can just use your feet to kind of give and take some of that tension. But again, you want to make sure you're at least trying to getting to failure, so you don't want to use too much of your feet. And then as soon as you're done with that, you're immediately jump to your primary horizontal push exercise or chest exercise to failure. When you get in the back, you could do 1 of or 2 of these things. It's kind of up to you, but really you're still going to do 1 set per one of these movement patterns. So first one is pick some sort of primary basic row. I like the cross grip row. You could go simple basic row if you guys wanted to. You could even go single arm. Again, I probably prefer just doing them both at once. You could even incorporate a bar here if you really wanted to. And then with the next exercise, again, it could be the same session or just but you could probably do both of these for 1 set, would be either a pull-up, so a Total Gym pull-up with a reverse grip. You're gonna see me holding onto the top of the machine. I like this, the way it feels, that reverse grip to really engage the lats. I'm throwing on my Bull Worker ISO Bow is the name of it. I got a discount code for that as well. SPT15 or SPT10 saves you 10% off a Bull Worker product, but those work awesome just as a quick way to get a little more range of motion, and they're a really versatile tool on a Total Gym. I've covered that many times. And if you're not gonna do pull-ups, the other alternate you could do would be some sort of face down pull over. I kind of go in this kind of a Y fashion, but if you wanted to go the strict pull downs, you're facing down, pulling this way, either face up or face down, that's also an option. Next thing would be shoulders. Again, the pre-exhaustion would be kind of optional, but you can do an inverted lateral raise for pre-exhaustion. You could probably even do a seated frontal raise if you wanted to pre-exhaust the shoulders or deltoids. but it's not necessary. The primary shoulder exercise that I personally would do and recommend would be an inverted press on the Total Gym. Or if you have enough extension, I got the double carabiners and the swivel. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link that in my Total Gym Amazon store down below. You guys can check those out, but that adds more extension. That allows me to get into the inverted face up or supine press, which I also think is really good to kind of get to failure. Not to mention, if you wanted to on this one, I also use a bar sometimes for this one as well. And then finally, the weakest link, in my opinion, on a Total Gym or Sonic Bench trainer is gonna be the legs. You definitely can stress your legs, no question about it. There's all sorts of other subtle single joint exercises you could do to failure. But as far as something that's more multi-joint, the one that I think works the best would be some sort of single leg variation. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. Again, that video referenced earlier for the exercise library, you can see about 3 or 4 different versions. I'm going face down, you can go face up, you can go sideways, whatever works for you, but I go face down and I go super focused, super slow. You gotta do one leg, then the other leg, and then after that, go immediately if you can. You can see I threw some weights on here, put some band tension on, and then I just did a Total Gym squat of my preference. And even the Total Gym squat has a few different variations. So really my point is, try to pre-exhaust, or at least you could just pick one of these exercises if you wanted to, but one leg exercise to failure, really to your preference. If you want to pre-exhaust it first, you can certainly do that as well. And then after you're done with your multi-joint stuff, it's really your single joint stuff of choice is really the icing on the cake. So you guys know I like training my arms. So going right in the biceps and then triceps, super slow. There's different positions I think might be better. Actually, I think the inverted bicep curl going super slow is better because you can't really cheat that as much. And then a variety of tricep extensions or anything of your choice for triceps. Now getting into frequency, or how many times a week would you do this workout? You can see this is a total body workout. You could get this into splits and break it apart if you want to, but I think because you're doing one set of all these exercises, it really shouldn't take you that long anyways, but it should still be very exhaustive. So with that logic, this is somewhat of a debated topic, or not really, if you're following like true high intensity training. You do not have to train that often. Since you went to full exhaustion, you did that full one set, now the focus is now on repair and recovery. And so really you could take 2 days off, 3 days off between each session. So you could pretty much do this total workout, this total body workout really once, twice to 3 times a week. I know people have written into me, said they literally do a total body HIIT workout once a week, and that works out well for them. And I think they maybe are using some other stuff, but the point is, you can incorporate this easily with any kind of tool in your HIIT program. But that is it, guys. I tried not to make this kind of too long-winded. I'm sure you guys might have some more questions that I can cover this in some more future videos. Again, if you want the PDF copy, just a straight printout, you're already kind of familiar with this type of training anyways, you just want to just follow a general template. Might not even be necessary. You might get all the information here, but I will link it on the website if you guys want to check it out. As always, thank you guys for watching. Anything you guys want to see in the future, let me know, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.